In this presentation, the US-Australia Force Posture Agreement and its implications are addressed. Here's what Kellie Tranter, journalist and human rights lawyer, said about the Force Posture Agreement at the IPAN's 2023 forum.
The combined effect of the Force Posture Agreement and other defence agreements with the United States is to nullify Australia's capacity to make independent decisions about war avoidance and war fighting. Together, they lock us into providing the United States first with secured areas under its control from which it may conduct a war, and second, with comprehensive logistical support for any such folly.
Defence Minister Miles has been effusive in his support for the Force Posture Agreement and the control the US has been given over Australian soil, saying that American force posture now in Australia involves every domain: land, sea, air, cyber, and space. The Force Posture Agreement concept commenced in 2011 with President Obama's announcement of the US pivot to Asia, and that US Marines would be stationed in Darwin each year for training with our ADF. He was welcomed by Australia's PM, Gillard, who enthusiastically endorsed his remarks. The FPA was signed in 2014 by Julie Bishop, Foreign Affairs Minister, and David Johnston, Minister for Defence for the Abbott government, and for the United States by Chuck Hagel, Secretary for Defence, and John F. Kerry, Secretary of State. Later that year, Prime Minister Abbott met with President Obama in the Oval Office, where the President said, "In addition to the Marines in Darwin and the rotations that have been established, we have actually arrived at additional agreements around force postures that will enhance the bilateral arrangements between our militaries and give us additional reach." Prime Minister Abbott replied, "I think this is not only good for Australia, but it's good for our region." So, what does the Force Posture Agreement state? Article 2 states, "This agreement provides the necessary authorizations for the United States to conduct mutually determined activities under the force posture initiatives in, from, or through Australia." Article 4 of the Force Posture Agreement states, "The United States forces and United States contractors shall have unimpeded access to and use of agreed facilities and areas for activities undertaken in connection with this agreement." And Australia hereby grants to the United States operational control of agreed facilities and areas. Senator David Shoebridge questioned the Department of Defense and was told that the agreed facilities and areas included the Darwin region and Northern Australia, including training areas, at RAAF bases Amberley, Curtin, Darwin, Learmonth, Shergar, and Tyndall, at HMAS Stirling, and in Albury-Wodonga, Bandiana, for logistics. In 2025, a US logistics center in Townsville has been added to the list during Talisman Sabre exercises. Part 3 of Article 7 states, "As mutually determined by the parties, aircraft, vehicles, and vessels operated by or for United States forces shall have access to aerial ports and seaports of Australia and other locations for the delivery to, storage, and maintenance in, and removal from the territory of Australia of United States forces pre-positioned material." Activities under Article 4 include training, transit, support, and related activities, refueling of aircraft, bunkering of vessels, temporary maintenance of vehicles, vessels, and aircraft, temporary accommodation of personnel, communications, pre-positioning of equipment, supplies, and material, deploying forces and material, and such other activities as the parties may agree. In practice, this means the basing in Darwin of 2,500 or more US Marines each year, not under Australian control, taking their orders from US Indo-Pacific Regional Command Center established in Darwin. It means US forces training with the Australian Defence Forces and taking part in the Talisman Sabre war exercises, focused on a potential war against China, as well as other war exercises such as Pitch Black. It means the transiting and stationing of US aircraft at the Tyndall and Darwin RAAF bases. This includes the stationing of up to 6 B-52 bombers. Some B-52s are capable of carrying nuclear weapons and can fly to China and back without refueling on the ground. It means the US setting up storage depots for fuel, spare parts, bombs, and other munitions in the Northern Territory, Bandiana, Victoria, and Townsville. It means, under the Force Posture Agreement, United States and United Kingdom nuclear submarines have access to HMAS Stirling Fleet Base West in Western Australia for porting and maintenance services, including storage of their low-level nuclear waste. Basing of nuclear-powered submarines close to a population area poses serious health hazards from possible radiation leaks. Safety procedures and emergency response plans for such emergencies are unknown. Michelle Fay, a journalist writing in Michael West Media, says, while the Force Posture Agreement strongly supports America's ability to wage war against China, politicians have not explained its significance to the Australian public. Moreover, public consultation on the Force Posture Agreement was virtually non-existent. The Northern Territory government was consulted, while other state and territory governments merely received advice about it. John Menadue, former editor of Pearls and Irritations, says of the implications of the Force Posture Agreement, this is our territory, this is our sovereignty. Yet today we won't even ask the Americans operating out of Tyndall whether they're carrying nuclear weapons. The Independent and Peaceful Australia Network recently held a well-attended webinar to launch a nationwide campaign calling for cancellation of AUKUS and the Force Posture Agreement. Speakers emphasised the dangers posed by these two agreements and the role they would play in integrating Australia into a US war on China. IPAN's call on government reads as follows: cancel AUKUS and terminate the Force Posture Agreement in order to stop nuclear submarines using Australian ports, nuclear submarine waste being stored on Australian territory, nuclear-capable bombers operating from Australia, use of Australian territory as a base for US war operations, Australian cities becoming military targets. Annette Brownlee, IPAN's chairperson, in supporting this call on government, says, the Force Posture Agreement gives the USA a heavy military footprint on Australia, facilitating the USA using Australia as an operational base for its war games and forward posturing. It enables the USA to operate nuclear-capable bombers and warships from Australia without declaring if they are actually nuclear-armed, and inevitably makes us a party to regional US military actions. Australia should prioritise peace, an independent foreign and defence policy, and good diplomatic relations in our region, not the endless and dangerous cycle of militarisation. I commend this petition for your consideration, signing and distributing it widely. This call on government can be signed here at the following URL or using the following QR code. This call on government can be signed here at the following URL or using the following QR code.